morning. Rounded all the stragglers out of the back, so we're good to go now, I think. Happy Father's Day. And we're going to sing some songs this morning. We have Ellie and Drew, who are a couple of our graduates. They're going to lead our singing this morning, so we're proud of that. Today we're kind of combining a couple of celebrations together. It is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to the fathers in the room. We are also doing our Senior Sunday today. So in case you didn't know, we got set back a few months on senior celebrations. Who didn't know that? In case you were asleep for the past couple of months, it's been strange. But we are here this morning to celebrate them, and we appreciate all that they've done, or their involvement in our church. We're looking forward to the awesome things God has in store for them in their future. So thank you, seniors that came this morning. Thank you, fathers that are in the room. Let's worship our Father this morning.
was the only one that could ever say, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only.
God, we come to you today just celebrating today our calendar reminder of Father's Day, God, and we thank you so much for the Father that we have in you. Lord, each and every person in this room has a different story with their earthly Father. God, it encompasses so many emotions and feelings and triumphs and tragedies. And God, we can rest assured in knowing that no matter what those stories are, God, our ultimate Father is you. Lord, thank you for these seniors this morning. God, everything they bring to the table, their hearts they share with us. God, as we celebrate their journeys this morning, God, allow us to not forget, God, that we're nothing without you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, this time, if you're a graduating high school senior, if you would make your way up the stage and join Drew and Ellie up here. Our youth group's been different for the past 3 months because it's kind of been non-physically existent. I've tried my best to keep up with our Instagram and do a few things here and there, but it's just not the same as meeting in person. But for the past few years, 3 or 4 years or so, and even sometime in middle school, we were meeting in Cindy's house. These kids have been, since Meredith and I have been here, pretty constant in our group at Cornerstone. Going to Fall Street with us, showing up on Wednesday nights, showing up on Sunday mornings. A very dependable group, which is pretty refreshing as a school teacher. You guys know what I'm talking about. To have a group that you can depend on for things is very rare, and we have that in these kids. And I just want to take some time this morning not only to give them a gift from our church, but to pray for them that as they continue their journey in life, this chapter is closed, and it's been a strange year of that chapter to close. So many different things going on, and events canceled, and this and that. You guys are going to be more resilient because of the things, the struggles that you've gone through this year than I was when I was a senior. Because a lot of things I took for granted, you guys didn't get to do. And that wasn't unplanned by God. God knows exactly what He's doing all the time. So we can rest assured knowing that God has you no matter what. He loves you. He cares about you. I want to pray for you guys. We have a gift. So thank you. I could spend probably 3 or 4 days talking about each one of these kids individually. But instead of me rambling up here, let's just pray for them, because they all know how all of us feel about them, I think. And if you don't, just ask us. We'll tell you. God, we come today just thanking you for this group of believers here this morning, God. Thank you for the journey that we've got to have with them up to this point. God, in the journey we're going to continue to have with them as we move forward, God, in the next chapter of their lives. God, thank you for giving us the privilege of being the building that they came to over these past few years, God, the youth group that they came to. The Lord always give them a bigger mindset of not a building church, God, but a body church. God, all of us, no matter where we're meeting this morning, we're meeting for one purpose, and that's because of who you are. God, your sacrifice you made on our behalf to restore what was broken by humankind, God, so we could have a relationship in love with you. So God, I pray as they make this next step, God, no matter what that looks like for them individually, that when things get tough, when struggles come, God, and they will, that they lean in you. God, they understand that you're not surprised by anything that they're surprised by. God, all that you long for is for them to seek refuge in you. For it's your name we pray. Amen. All right, so Kayla, Ellie, Drew, Brooklyn, Boggy, Hunter, and Luke. Boggy, Hunter's not 2 kids. One and the same. So we have a gift. Our church has a gift card for them and a card. And then Susie and Mark were also kind enough to give them a really nice leather-bound copy of the Jesus Calling book that I think Susie personalized for you guys. So these are labeled. Calm down, Drew. We appreciate you guys. We love y'all. If you guys get a chance at some point in the service, I know we're still practicing social distancing things. That's why I really want to. Whoa, new sound man in the house. Brian and Crystal are gone this morning to visit Brian's parents, so if you look back at the sound booth, we have an interesting crew back there. Mr. Carson McCall, Meredith, and then a couple of 5-year-old kids. I don't know who those belong to. They look nervous, though. So if there's any kind of technical issues, you can blame me because I pointed all of them to that task. But again, seniors, thank you. I was wanting to people come up and lay hands. I was like, nah, it's probably not the best thing, especially as we're live feeding this for the world to see. So you're prayed for, you're loved, and we appreciate you. Thank you, Clay. Thank you guys for preaching back this morning. Use the social distancing skills that you've learned. All right, folks.
Now I got it. One day I just been so Oh, I have to.
Yeah, why? It kind of looked there. Yeah, they were messing around. He kind of looked at me.
A couple of announcements before we get started. This is for lawn care. And if you're interested in being a part of the lawn care, and it's once a week for a couple months and then it slows way down. But it's basically cleaning up outside. If you have a blower, great. If you have a push lawnmower, great. If you have an edger, great. Do what you can. Don't worry about it if you don't have all that stuff. The guy next week might have it. So, and we'll pick it up. Nobody's being critical. If there were, I'd never admit when I mowed the lawn. So we'll pass this around. Obviously, it's going to get touched by a lot of people, so be careful with that regard. And I should put a pin in it that's just all over my hands. There's no way around that one. And Christy has been so kind to pick up the project for you. Mylon, pick up the project of putting together a sort of a Facebook for our church with all the pictures, so name and address and email number, whatever you want to give so we can find you. And so I can get you on my phone. I've had a couple of you text me, but I didn't have your phone number on my phone, so you went into the odd, strange, weird, don't answer column, and I didn't see it for a couple days. So if I can get your name in there, that might help. So that Christy has that list, and it's floating around. So if you have it, just quietly move it apart, move it along. So I've got the strange challenge, thanks to the calendars and graduation, of doing a graduate message and a Father's Day message. We will see if I'm up to the task of that. It was 31 years ago today, I do not exaggerate. 31 years ago today that a professional guide and myself, his name was Tom Hines, now living in Prague, and I stood at the base of one of the
50 classic climbs in North America on a mountain called Liberty Bell. You can Google it, you'll see what the mountain called Liberty Bell looks like. It's on the, just as you cross into the eastern slopes of the Cascades across Washington Pass, it strikes a huge silhouette along the southern sky there, along with Minutemen and Burgundy Spire and Concord Spire and many other spires. Liberty Bell is the premier rock on that. Liberty Crack is probably the longest route on Liberty Bell Mountain. It's 1,200 feet, nearly vertical, some spots overhanging, including, and specifically, the Lithuanian roof on the middle of the third pitch, a 15-foot overhang, where there's nothing but, am I doing all right here? Breaking up a little bit? Where there's nothing but air dangling beneath our feet as we come up and over and around the corner of them. The fifth pitch and sixth pitch and seventh pitch of Liberty Crack, and a pitch is 160 or 150, 180 feet, however you decide to run your rope out, turns into sandstone and really bad rock. The crack is anywhere between less than a finger wide to a hand wide, if you're lucky, to maybe a foot wide at the widest spot. And the crack goes from the bottom, 1,200 feet, straight up to the summit. As we stood at the bottom of Liberty Crack 31 years ago, I can remember looking up at this thing. And we're not, understand me, we're not talking about looking up at the top of this mountain. Wow, that's straight up. We're talking about I am touching the base of the climb, a huge monolith of granite split into by Liberty Crack. And I'm looking up. I can't see the top. Can't even see the top of the first pitch. And so we were intimidated before we even started. Scary is the right word. I can remember clearly in the middle of the seventh pitch, hanging in a hanging belaying my buddy Tom up and just looking at his rear end as he works his way up this crack, thinking, I think it would probably be about 4 seconds to the bottom. I wouldn't feel anything after that, but those would be a terrible 4 seconds. Then I remember thinking, let's see, I could probably sell my carabiners. They're used. I could sell them for, let's say, $2 a piece. My rope, nobody's going to want because it's used. All the other, I'd probably have $1,000 worth of gear I could sell. I could just stop this madness. In the middle of the climb, I'm thinking these things. I don't tell my buddy, hey, I went off, because there is no way off but up. We had some trouble on the 8th pitch. We got benighted on the 9th pitch. So Tom and I spent the night in a hanging belay, him on my lap, until I got cold and everything on me went numb as I'm shaking, and I pound his chest. Tom, yeah, I got to switch, man. So we turn around, he gets against the rock, and I lay on him. And when you're climbers, man, you live close together. Lay my chest, head down, snooze, and I try to get a little bit of sleep until he, dude, we got to switch. How long's it been? About 40 minutes. I haven't slept a wink. How about you? No, I haven't. Too cold. Just before dawn becomes the darkest and the coldest. As dawn struck, we began climbing again. We would have climbed through the night, except maybe both of us. I know me, I had duct taped my headlamp switch off, and somehow in the rustle of hauling our packs up the face, my headlamp had switched on. I had no headlamp, my batteries just burned out as they wasted away. So we spent the night with no headlamp. As the morning came, it began to rain. We did the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th pitch in a light rain. Climbing 5'9", 5'11", A2 rock in dry conditions is hard enough. In the light rain with northwest lichen on the rock, it's even harder. We summited. We rappelled off the summit down into the couloir between Concord and Liberty Bell, and we looked for our boots, our ice axe, our packs. They're nowhere to be found. Someone was supposed to hike them up for us. So we climbed down the couloir in our rock climbing slippers and hiked the 3 miles out in our super tight rock climbing slippers and found our buddy who said, I put them up there, I don't know what happened. Well, he put them up, these are towers, and he missed the tower, he put them up in a couloir to the south. I went back the next week and got it. Seniors standing at the bottom of life, at the bottom of the next pitch, at the bottom of this cliff that we're looking up at, it's not a nice view. It's not, wow, that's nice, this will be a nice stroll. It feels, do you remember? It feels like this. I don't know if I can do this. But seniors and others, I assure you, you can. Because goofy little 6th graders like me, picking our nose and shooting spit wads and chasing people around the playground, have somehow figured it out. Certainly you can. As intimidating as it looks to you now, you can do it. Don't be afraid if you're afraid. Don't be afraid if you're afraid. Just start. And pitch number 1 happens. And you move, and it's rough, and your knuckles bleed, and you'll wonder, is this whole thing going to be like this? And the answer is largely yes. And then you begin pitch 2 with 160 feet behind you. And it still looks hard. And maybe you're only a sophomore in college. Maybe you've graduated college before pitch 2 starts. And here comes the Lithuanian roof. I thought these were the best days of my life. It's supposed to get easier. I'm out of my parents' house. But what the heck? I don't have a car. How am I supposed to pay these bills? I wish Mom would make me breakfast. And then the Lithuanian roof comes. And you are hung out over 220 feet of dead air, and you look up and you see a granite roof above your head that I can't do this. But you keep going. You stinking keep going. And you come around the Lithuanian roof, and it may well be the scariest moment in your life, or so you think, because you're not to pitch 7 yet, and thank goodness you don't know about pitch 7. And you make it around the Lithuanian roof. You have a small celebration. You keep going. And then pitch 3 begins. Pitch 3 is a narrow finger crack with dime-sized footholes. I can't do this. Hold it. Other people have climbed this route. Hold it. Somebody else has gone before me. I see scars in the rock. This has been climbed before. Maybe I can't do it. And you keep going. And you keep moving. And you get to pitch 4. Pitch 4 suddenly becomes an off-width crack. It's between here and here and here. You can't get a hand in, you can't double jam, you can't get your arm far enough in to reach the corner. You get one shoulder, one elbow, one toe, and one knee, and a hip in, and you work your way up. There's no way to protect pitch 7, hardly. A fall is a 50-foot screamer, and screamer is fair enough. A broken leg might be what you get. And you keep going. And somewhere along the line, you get awarded by people in your world that welcome to adulthood. Some people think adulthood happens when they're 16 to get their driver's license. Now you're just old enough to get a driver's license. It means nothing about whether you're a man or a woman or an adult. 18, now I can vote. I guess they think I'm an adult. No, not really. I know some 60-year-olds that are still stuck in a phallic stage of high school, chasing the things high school boys chase. I don't care what their age is or your age is. Somewhere along the line, you gain adulthood and you realize this thing comes into perspective. And at some level you go, it's hard, but I can do it. Others have done it. I'm not alone. I've got a buddy. It's hard, but I'm doing it. And somehow it changes from it's hard and I'm doing it to, whoa, this is kind of cool. Look at where I am. Look at how high I've gotten. Look at, I can almost see the top. This is fabulous. I'm alive. Who does this? Very few people have been where I'm at. Wow! And it's your life, and you're doing it. Nobody else has been there. It's new ground you're paving. And that's the end of my talk to the seniors. Kind of inspired myself. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Therefore, since through God's mercy we have this ministry, we do not lose heart. We have this ministry of reconciliation that we know about because we've looked ahead in the book. We skipped ahead in the chapter to find out what it's talking about. And we come back, this ministry of reconciliation. I don't know if I can do it. You can do it. And because you can't do it, we don't lose heart, even though it's hard. Even though it's hard. Moving into my Father's Day message. I think I'm doing okay with it. I think I'm managing. Skipping ahead to verse 7 in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, one of the most, I know I say this every Sunday, but I honestly believe it. Get a hold of this passage on pitch 2 and 3 and 4 and 7 and 9, and when it gets to rain and when it's nighttime and you're numb and you're cold. Get a hold of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. It goes like this. But we have this treasure in jars of clay. Jars of clay break, but there's a treasure inside. And I'll skip ahead in my message. The jar may break, but the treasure does not get destroyed. Got it? This jar may break, but the diamond ring doesn't. The jar may break, but your soul and spirit and your heart and your personhood does not break. Even though your body may break or your ankle may sprain. We have these jars of clay, Paul writes, that we live in. And we have them to show that the all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. Pay attention, every one of you, to this. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Memorize it. Own it. Eat it. Tattoo it on your heart. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Got it? Life's tough, guys. We are perplexed, but not in despair. We are persecuted, but not abandoned. And we are struck down, but we are not destroyed. Men. I love Mother's Day, but I speak as an outsider. I speak from hearsay. I speak from what I've observed. I love Father's Day because I spent nearly all of my adult life in men's groups with climbing buddies for days, listening to men's stories. And ladies, I will tell you, your men, whether they show it or not, have feelings, and you can hurt them. You can die from paper cuts. And many men in this room and around this city and around this town are suffering Paper cut after paper cut after paper cut. Eventually, we will bleed out. And you may wonder, what's wrong with my husband? It's been said of women, when they're done, they're done. When they quit, they quit. It's rarely been said of men that that's true as well. But if they just quietly go away, they just become dispassionate, and we wonder what's happened, we might want to pull their shirts up and their sleeves up, look in the mirror, and watch for paper cuts. We are used to having our chests pounded on. You can get away with that and not go to jail. We can't. You are used to being told to be strong, men. Well, not that strong. We're used to being told, engage us. Oh, don't engage us like that. We're used to being told, help with the house. No, don't put that there. That's never been there. And the paper cuts just mount up. I talked to a dear family relative this week. He was trying to say something. He's not very skilled orally. His wife corrected everything he said on the phone. One of the things he was trying to tell me is, I'm exhausted. I'm about done. I don't know if I can continue. And she continued. She didn't get it. She was doing it as he was telling me and her on speakerphone that he doesn't know if he can take it anymore, and she continued to do it. You've been told, men, that if you just get your act together, that the whole family will fall into place. From pulpits around the U.S., they're telling us that this morning. You just get your act together and your wife and family will follow. And anybody with a thinking mind at all knows that that's a lie. Jesus was the perfect father, and yet we look at the world. Is it all in line? Is it all squared away? There is pressure on men. Ladies have been told they're special. Men, you are special. You're not a pawn. You're not a drone. You're not a maintenance machine. You're not a fix-it boy. You are a man to step in and do some powerful things. And this is my encouragement for you this morning. One, to empathize with you. And I want to give you an image of manhood, and I'm going to do it through the person of Jesus. And I think it's a pretty good image. We are hard pressed, but not crushed, Paul tells us. The pressure for us working from my notes now is to do more, try harder, join the Rotary Club. How come you don't do what that guy does? But we don't say it quite like that. Gosh, he's got a nice yard. The pressure on us is to get more of a job. Why don't you get fitter? Why don't you get an advancement? Why don't you get paid more? That other guy's getting paid more. There is pressure. We are hard pressed from our employers, hard pressed from our families sometimes, hard pressed from preachers sometimes to do more, try harder, straighten up. We are hard pressed from ourselves and our image of what our fathers expected of us. But we are not crushed. Gentlemen, that pressure cannot and will not and does not crush you. Stand up. I know it's hard. I know you have things going on. Stand up. Men. And we see the example of Jesus. He walked to wounded people, and he said in some version or other two things to them. One, he said, what do you want? And the second thing he said so often was, stand up. Come out of the shame. Come out of the grovel. Stand up. I know it's hard. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Stand up. Mark, you don't know how hard my life's been. Stand up, gentlemen. You don't know what it's like to live with my wife. Stand up. You didn't have a father like I had. Stand up. Are you with me? If I talk to ladies like this, I get emails. But men, we're okay, aren't we? Stand up. Step in. Be strong. You are enough to do what you need to do. Even though your 14-year-old daughter is crying because a boyfriend just broke up with her and you have no idea what to say, no idea what to do, you are enough to enter that and be something, even though you don't know what to do. We are perplexed, but not despairing. Ladies and gentlemen, I made a note in my calendar about 3 months ago that I am aware of my depression. And I wrote it down. I showed it to Susie yesterday or the day before. This message is to me. Stand up, Mark. And I need some help. I'm going to work on getting some help. But I am now perplexed. I'm confused. But I can't be, I won't be despairing. I will continue to stand in front of you. Continue to be who my wife needs me to be as much as I can. I will stand up. I will eventually get clear. The sun will rise. These are confusing times, and that's exacerbated my issues. But I'm not despairing like Paul. I know there's hope. I tenaciously hold on to hope. Someone said to me, a couple people said to me 15 years ago, Mark, where's God in your life? I said, oh my goodness, God is all I have. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Gentlemen, if you want to be persecuted, turn on network television and watch the commercials, especially cast you as a dumb, bumbling idiot. What's that feel like to be always cast as the dumb, bumbling idiot? And if you're not, you're a patriarchal, misogynistic, abusive alpha male who's insecure and fragile. They paint us both ways. Rarely do they paint a balanced picture of a healthy male. We are persecuted. Life is difficult. It's just flat hard. We're persecuted but not abandoned. We are not alone. I told my son and my son-in-laws in a text this morning that they are not alone. Others have gone before them. Just like on that climb. Gentlemen, we're persecuted but not abandoned. My point, get in a herd. Stop isolating. Nobody knows what's going on with me. I have sat for 4 or 5, maybe decades with men, and I have heard everything imaginable when they dare to share, and people do not ostracize them, but people are drawn to them. We love to swim in our own shame pool and suck the thumb of shame. And we isolate, because nobody gets me. You don't get me. Nobody gets me. Oh, I shared before one time, and those guys all they did was gossip about me. Well, stand up. Live your life, not the others who gossip about you. If they gossip about you, and you get caught up in that, now they are running your life. You just gave them control because they gossiped about you. It's like the 22-year-old who wasn't allowed to cuss, and then he went off to college, and now all he does is cuss. His dad is still running his life. Right? You with me? It's a counter running his life. They never let you run in the halls, so I run in the halls, right? I don't want to run in the halls, but I do it because they tell me not to. They're in charge of my life. Gentlemen, stand up. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be it? And live it. Stand up. Life is hard. You're right, it's hard. Wasn't supposed to be easy. If it was supposed to be easy, I would frankly never turn to Christ, because I'd be very good at the easy life, and I would never have felt my need for Jesus. I would have been caught up in my own golden-haired, narcissistic reflection in the pond. Some of you liturgists know what I'm referring to. And I'd be the center of my own hero story, because it's all working. But instead, we numb up, and now it's legal in other ways. We can numb up through weed, we can numb up through alcohol, we can numb up through busyness, we can numb up through, and the list goes on. When we get persecuted, we tend to isolate. Men get in a hurt. We are struck down but not destroyed. And I've said this before, folks. We will fall. Everyone falls. In Japan, they taught me, fall 7, get up 8. In climbing and rescue work, they teach you, as long as you're breathing and thinking, there is always something else you can do to help yourself. There was always something else you can do to help yourself. I guarantee you, watching movies until 2 in the morning when we're depressed and hitting the whiskey or the weed is not helping ourselves. It's further numbing up and making the matter worse. We're struck down but not destroyed. Ladies and gentlemen, I said this a couple weeks ago, but I'll say it again now. You will not be destroyed, sir. You cannot be destroyed. Regardless of the pain in your heart and the pressure that you may or may not feel about the future going forward, you cannot be destroyed until it's your time. When it's your time, God will take you, and He calls those numbers. We are struck down, but not destroyed. Apparently, God's not done with them yet. So when you're suffering, stand up, carry on. It ain't your time if you're still breathing. I'm telling you this as a depressed man. So all 5 fingers are coming back at me. Jesus, during the hardest days of his life, did a walkabout. Did a walkabout on what you and I now call the Via Dolorosa in the streets of Jerusalem. You can walk that walk. And he went to the cross. He gave himself up in great humility for us. Fathers, here's what I want you to take away today. And men, here's what I want you to take away. Brothers walk with each other. Shane? Brothers walk with, beside. We fight, we wrestle, chest butt, we confront each other. We get it straight. Fathers don't walk beside, men. You're not your son's buddy. You're failing when you do that. Fathers, like Jesus, walk in front. They lead the way. They do what they need to do. They do their work. Once in a while, they look back at their sons. How you doing? See what I'm doing here? Taking care of my business. Yeah, I beat up pretty bad, but I'm still walking. I'm not depending on you to get me through today. I'm not making you my little codependent emotional support system. I'm a man. I'm standing up. And I'm walking. At great cost to myself, I walk. A man walks ahead. He has his friends. Children and brothers walk with and behind. They look ahead to the example of their father like Jesus did. And like Peter, when the cock crowed, Jesus turned and looked at Peter. And I think what his look was, and I'm guessing, some of the theologians in the room could help me, but I'm guessing his look was, that's why I'm going to the cross, Peter, because you can't do it, can you? Fathers walk in front. They lead the way. They help their sons and daughters when they can, but not too much. Not too much. They don't use their sons and daughters for emotional support groups. 7-year-old kids cannot emotionally support a 40-year-old dad going through a crisis. Stand up, men. Get your buddies and walk, because the kids and the wives are watching you. You are strong enough. You can do it. Jesus did it, and it produced huge redemption as we walk behind his example. He was filled with not just paper cuts, but huge body sores and wounds. And he never asked Peter, can't you see I'm beat up, man? Help me. He never asked Bartholomew, I'm beat up, man. You guys got to stick with me. He was our example of a man as he continued to work redemption for me. You can't do it, you say? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Stand up, Joe. You can do it. You are enough. You are enough to lead and love, to be strong and gentle. You are enough to set an example. Get your buddies. Don't isolate. This won't kill you. It's intimidating. See how I tied the two talks together right there? It's intimidating, gentlemen, but it's doable if you start. Men, let's be brothers together if we can, because we've got a big job. It's a hard job. And we get criticized if we don't, and we get criticized if we do. Ladies, love your husbands up today. Kids, call your dads. Father, thanks for what you've given us with this great passage. Father, and the confidence that I get from knowing that I can't be destroyed until it's time. I'd ask that you touch us and encourage us this morning. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Okay, fathers, go be you. The sign-up sheets, if you can bring those up here somewhere, wherever they are, and we will see you all next week.
Yeah.
Do you say this?
Oh, I have to.